What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the bar. Today we're going to be talking about My Hero Academia Vigilantes Chapter 84. This week I got quite a bit to say because, to be honest, this chapter really sets the stage for Koichi's greatest battle. Will it be his final? Probably not, but let's get inside. If you're over 21 or 18 in select places, get yourself a drink, but if you're a minor, sorry kids, just grab a soda and buckle up. Uncle Iroh's about to go in. Alright, so chapter 84 begins with a woman dressed in an overcoat looking up at the sky and seeing that the crawler is making his descent. She charges toward the location and we see that Soga and the boys were actually expecting Koichi to launch himself as they have a landing pad ready for him. Now you guys know my new style of doing things here. Sometimes I break off for a bit and talk about certain parts that I deem worthy. This one is absolutely one of those moments though. Koichi having a landing pad means that Koichi already knew that he could fly for a limited amount of time. This means that they absolutely did premeditate getting caught up in traffic. Koichi knew that he was going to have to go on ahead, and as such, Soga and the boys didn't want him to move on their own. But if Koichi made their move, they had a backup plan, which, initially is just a shorter version of their original plan, because instead of skating away with Pop Step, launching himself was going to be the best option. After this scene passes though, we get the moment of truth. Eyes are literally on Soga now, as he's been notified by the exhausted Koichi that Pop has been shot up with a drug. This causes Soga to start hesitating as Pop begins to have like a seizure. Right as Soga's about to perform the procedure, he's stopped by the woman in the trench coat. She reveals herself to be the longtime friends of Aizawa, Hizashi, and the best boy that we know, Shirakumo, Nomori Kayama, also known as the R-rated hero, Midnight. Now, luckily for the Vigilantes, the person who was in the area is also a person who absolutely loves the Naruhata Vigilantes, and is probably more forgiving than Aizawa. See, Midnight and the Naruhata Vigilantes have a past. She met the Vigilantes way back during the Marukana incident, if you don't remember. She also teamed up with Pop Step to take out some of those trigger dealers that were dealing at Koichi's school. But we got the hero that understands the situation finally into the fray. We find out that the bees have been destroyed by Endeavor and that only the queen resides inside of Pop Step. They educate Midnight, and being the fast thinker, she does something amazing. What she does, she uses her quirk to make Pop Step pretty much on the verge of death, requiring resuscitation. I don't understand why the choice of words here was metabolism. I guess slowing down her metabolism will slow the drug from going completely apeshit inside of her body. But shout out to Rapt for not holding his breath long enough and getting knocked out by Midnight's gas. Maybe he should just stop smoking. Either way, the biggest takeaway is Pop being rushed to the hospital. But the thing is, enough time has passed that now, this asshole is back. Endeavor rolls up. He shouts at the kids, calling them villains, and fucking Soga's ready to bang out immediately. He does not care. The dude straight up Wolverines right in Endeavor's face. Midnight raises her hand and says that this is over. This kid needs medical attention immediately. He then asks where the other one in the All Might hoodie went, and Midnight covers for Koichi, who is hiding and dodging the gaze of Endeavor. From here, Endeavor's voice completely changes. Throughout the whole debacle, Endeavor hasn't been the dumbass that we've kinda thought him out to be. He knows that something fishy is going down in Naruhata, and he reminds Midnight to take care of Pop Step as she knows more about this situation than anybody. And before leaving, Endeavor looks off, and I feel like he's indirectly looking at Koichi, and he's almost saying my back is turned, Naruhata Vigilante, move. He looks back at the wall, and Koichi is gone. Endeavor then punches a pipe, springing water out to put out his hell flame. Now somebody in that building doesn't have water. Good job, Endeavor. It then flashes to the rooftop and we see Koichi kind of looking off, realizing that Endeavor totally saw him and chose not to pursue him. A voice that sounds burnt to a crisp then pulls Koichi's ear. It's the villain number 6, and if you thought he was unstable before, well, he's even more messed up now. When I tell you this dude's having a full-blown identity crisis, when Koichi tries to be like, hey dude, you're that O'Clock 2 guy, right? Let me get you some help. Number 6 just snaps at him and says, no, my problems are not of the flesh variety, it's that of existence. And because of Koichi's constant meddling, he's back to being the same old nameless number 6, and the tale of O'Clock 2 will have to wait because of him. I mean, I can't really feel bad for the guy. He killed a bunch of people indiscriminately to make himself feel whole. But someone like that, they kinda need some serious help, He denies Koichi's assistance and he continues to monologue, and Koichi tries to interrupt number 6 one more time, and in a tearful yelp, number 6 yells at Koichi, no, listen. And at this point, number 6 has lost all nerve and patience for Koichi's kindness. He pretty much grabs Koichi metaphorically and holds him down and makes him listen to one hell of a villainous monologue. I've said this before, Koichi, without even thinking, created an arch nemesis in number 6. This is his All for One, this is his Shigaraki, this is his Reverse Flash. Someone without any explanation whatsoever blames you for ruining the grand design of their making. And with that reveal, we see the chopped meat melted face of number 6, and he declares in a woeful speech that Koichi crushed his dreams of being a hero. Everything from start to finish in his life has either been made up or fake, and the only way that he feels like he will ever feel whole again is when Koichi crawls at number 6's feet begging for death. And that day, when Koichi finally dies, will mark the day the tale of O'Clock 2 begins. Which, if Koichi didn't get it through his head, he reiterates in simple terms for Koichi, staring at him dead in the eyes. It means, Koichi, that after number 6 murders Popstep for knowing too much, he's coming for you. First she dies, then you. Number 6 then will get to be his real self, and the chapter ends with number 6 slithering away after collapsing. Now, the way that he slithered away was a little bit, inhuman. I know the people on the My Hero Academia Discord, shout out to you guys, were saying that it was kind of trying to resemble Slide and Glide. I don't know about that, but if there's one thing that number 6 did do, he left behind a substantial amount of blood, which means that, when the police come on scene, they're gonna be like, oh, look, this is the same blood that was on scene when Knuckle Duster fought this dude before. I mean, at this point, we have kind of seen that the police isn't stupid. They kind of think ahead of things, and they're not as dumb as we think. With that being said, I personally need to digest the outcome of the entire situation. Granted, I wasn't expecting Midnight to show up. Her appearance in Vigilantes comes as a pleasant surprise, as she's relevant right now in the main manga, My Hero Academia. And we all know what's about to happen over there, RIP to a OG. But let's talk more about the aftermath of this chapter. For all intents and purposes, Volume 10 is over. And I'm kind of upset that the ending turned out to be not really as climactic as I wanted it to be. Also, I was kind of hoping that we would get like an anniversary spread. Instead, we kind of got like a mediocre send-off to Volume 10. I really wasn't excited about that ending. But now we should honestly see the criminal justice system in full effect. Because we've all said this before, the one thing that Vigilantes has given us the opportunity to see is how the police and criminal justice system works. And now there's a few things that I could definitely foresee happening. In 3 weeks, the next chapter will either show the hospital scene with Popstep, and Makoto will probably show up to be her lawyer through the entire situation. But the big thing that I have to see is, does everyone know who the Naruhata Vigilante is now? Because everyone knows that he was involved, but it's not so secret who the Vigilante was. I mean, I don't think Koichi really needs to turn himself in unless they register him as a villain, and at the moment they do have tons of bodies and only one person in custody that could really, reveal anything. But before dipping out, number 6 says he has to stop Popstep from singing, so unless this dude just slithered off after the car that they're all in, or sneaks into the hospital, he's going back into hiding, and O'Clock 2 has zero chance of ever being a hero. I mean, yeah, I guess number 6 could change his appearance so frequently that maybe he could hide amongst people for now, but if not, maybe time will pass before he makes this big move. You've got to think, Ujiko and All for One were watching this creation of theirs lose its shit. And at what point do you realize that number 6's existence is a walking implication that All for One survived the battle against All Might? I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be surprised if after all this shit they're like, yeah, no more test tube babies, dead bodies only. Also, alright, I think it's about time I take the L for Compass Kid. I know that I said no body means no death, but I think it might be quite possibly safe to say that unfortunately the dude's dead. I don't want to count the poor dude out, but I can keep some hope alive a little bit that he might have survived because he could honestly be the person to corroborate the truth being said by Popstep. It's been proved that Makoto's quirk can be fooled if you were to question properly or improperly, and this whole debacle is wandering down a path of how due process is done in this society. Due process is the act of receiving fair treatment through justice proceedings. If that were the case, the question becomes, is Makoto's quirk reliable as a source of testimony? People debate the efficacy of polygraphs as it is. But if you have Compass Kid also come out and say, there was a person on scene responsible for the various murders, it could exonerate Pop quicker than usual and put number 6 under the microscope a lot more easily. I mean, I would kind of love to see a My Hero Academia spinoff that shows how court proceedings are done. Like, Deku's only one side of the proceedings. When he caught Overhaul, that was only step 1. The second battle is fighting against the Yakuza's resources. Luckily, you have proof of him turning into a giant monster in the middle of the street. As for someone like All for One, on the other hand, he's already been convicted and probably escaped custody more times than the Joker. It's also why when he's apprehended, he's probably just thrown in Tartarus. Stain is a little bit of a complicated case. If you remember, All Might was actually set to meet with Stain, but whether or not this was before or after a court hearing is to be said. His hearing is pretty open and shut too. I mean, the guy's a murderer. Someone like him would need to be locked up and therapized. But I was rambling to a friend earlier that all this shit going down in My Hero Academia between Endeavor, Aizawa, Midnight has me feeling that the next bit of Vigilantes could either be the end of the series or it could be like 2 volumes worth of content left. Granted, the whole point of this arc was for number 6 to use Popstep and Koichi to slingshot him into being a hero. Instead, the opposite occurred, and now he wants to murder them with the fury of 1,000 suns. As for how many chapters might exist within this final volume, I haven't really done the math about how many chapters have been done per volume, but I'm pretty sure the first volume was only 6 chapters. So we could possibly have a small mini type volume for the ending of Vigilantes. And before we get ahead of ourselves for them to cross over, the last time the titles really crossed over with one another was during the Aizawa backstory, and it coincided with the Shirakumo reveal. So I mean, yeah, it's probably got another volume left. What it'll be around, I honestly have no idea, but it'll probably have to culminate in the return of Knuckle Duster, Koichi learning about his master's past, maybe learning about All for One, and we'll probably see Koichi and the Vigilantes stand up to number 6 one last time. Also, this man is probably going to have to choose, between Makoto and Popstamp. But before we wrap up today's video though, one more far-fetched theory. What if the jailbreak happens and number 6 is a prisoner? With the introduction of flight and the death of Gran Torino, there isn't many people to teach Deku how to fly anymore. Sorry to the people that love Captain Celebrity, but come on. But if there's one person who can help, it's somebody that Midnight, Endeavor, Aizawa, they can all vouch for. Koichi. If he's a hero, that's one thing, but who knows how heroic society will be after this current arc. I'd love to see UA get taken down for a bit and they need to trust people, beyond the trust of the school. While this is a fun theory, I feel like it preserves number 6 as a villain for future uses. Since there's 3 weeks till the next chapter, I'll do a speculation video in the coming weeks about what's going to be happening in the next volume. And hopefully there I'll have more to say about Makoto's comeback, 6 versus Koichi, and Knuckle Duster's return. I mean, there's a lot to cover here. I'm ready for one more volume of Vigilantes, and I'm glad I was wrong about it ending. If you guys have any idea what direction the manga might be headed, be sure to leave it in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'm getting out of here. Cheers.